Today on this edition of More Than Books, the annual Spell Bowl was a lot of fun and a great success, with hundreds of dollars being raised for the Southfield Veterans Commission. WDIV Channel 4 and the National Weather Service collaborated with the library to present WeatherFest for the second year in a row. Library staff completed a project called Detroit 1967, an Oral History. Southfield residents shared their memories of the summer of 1967 in time for the July retrospective of the riots. And finally, you won't believe what patrons saw hopping around the library. All this and more today on More Than Books. Hi, I'm Dave Ewick, City Librarian here in beautiful Southfield. Welcome to More Than Books. Today's episode boasts a variety of programs that have recently been held here at the Southfield Public Library. The library hosted its 10th annual Spell Bowl, a team event where we have fun, misspell words, and raise money for the Southfield Veterans Commission. It's one of our most fun events, especially for adults and for me. Schizoid, schizoid. Yay! Okay. Teams pay a $45 registration fee, with the proceeds going to the local Southfield Veterans Commission. Each team is a group of 5 to 6 people who spell words together in a team effort. Teams can be made up of family members, friends, your bowling team, whatever crew you can put together. It's a fun and sometimes silly event with lots of laughter. Beginning bowl, and it was climbing out of the bowl itself. So I'll use this one. The Spell Bowl winners receive gift certificates, and the third place team gets a special spaghetti dinner from the local VFW hall. At least they have for the past few years. This event is held each March or April, and we'd love to see you next year. The Southfield Public Library, WDIV Local 4, the National Weather Service, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association, Planet Now, and the City of Southfield combined to host the second annual WeatherFest. WeatherFest is a unique rally event for weather education. The National Weather Service mascot, Owlie Skywarn, joined us to help with the program. Owlie is a severe weather preparedness hero who helps our nation's kids prepare for flash floods, climate change, storms, tornadoes, and more. And they do this through an online game and teacher guides created with NOAA and the Satellite Educators Association. Planet Now partners with the National Weather Service's Young Meteorologist program for a free online game that takes kids on severe weather preparedness adventures. WeatherFest connects children and educators with first responders, such as firefighters, police officers, and Coast Guard members, along with local meteorologists, educators, and civic leaders, to show how we all work together for safety in the event of a severe weather event in our community.
So today is WeatherFest. So for the Coast Guard, how we are kind of involved with this is the Great Lakes is very diverse in the kind of weather that we get. So we get ice, we get snow, we get ever-changing weather up here. And unfortunately, usually when the weather changes quickly is when people get in trouble. So we, as Coast Guard pilots, we're working closely with NOAA, monitoring the different weather patterns that occur in the Great Lakes, trying to get an idea of if a weather system is going to be moving in, are we going to be ready for it, and are we going to be ready to respond quickly as possible?
This is a chance to really inspire the kids. It's based on a young or youth meteorologist idea, and kids are so inquisitive and also very anxious or nervous about weather, and so this is a chance for them to come and ask questions, to visually see things, touch things, get an idea as to why certain weather events happen, and a little peace of mind and understanding. And I think it's also for parents who can bring their kids here as well. We've got folks from insurance companies that talk about how to stay safe in the house, come up with a severe weather safety plan. You have the American Red Cross here. You've got all these different entities, so that really there's not one angle of weather's impact on people that isn't covered. Well, I've always been nervous about weather, and so I'm chasing my fears, staring right down the throat of Mother Nature and the weather. Just as a kid was always very nervous, and I still am. I still get very nervous when the thunder strikes nearby. When I'm inside the building and I'm handling severe weather, or handling any weather, I'm very calm and confident, but outside of the building, the Clark Kent in me is nervous. My kids are nervous, and I speak to a lot of schools, and I know that a lot of kids are nervous about the weather, and I don't want to promote that sort of thing, but there's good reason why. The weather is very unpredictable. As much as we can predict weather, things can change in a heartbeat, and we have seen more and more the strength of storms increasing, the size of storms are increasing, and so I've always been nervous about the weather, and so being a meteorologist is just facing my fears. Weather in Michigan is unlike anywhere else, and there is no place that I'd rather be, because you can have all 4 seasons in one day sometimes. It's one of those things where it's a joke that people say, you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and the weather will change. Sometimes that's so far from the truth. It's more like 1 minute things will change. So I work a weird schedule. I'm up at 2:30 in the morning, drive to work at 3 o'clock in the morning with a big fat smile on my face, because I know today is different than yesterday. Tomorrow will be different than today. Everything is different every day, and it's either a matter of cloud cover, sunshine, storms, ice, wind. We get it all, and we get all levels of everything too. So I've worked in all parts of the country and I've covered everything, but I've never worked anywhere where you get everything. It's a great, great field, and you don't necessarily have to be somebody who's comfortable being on camera or speaking in front of people, because there are different levels of weather. There are jobs with the National Weather Service where you come up with the more scientific approach to forecasting weather. To become a broadcast meteorologist is just such a fun job. I mean, nothing that we do is scripted. It's all sort of ad-libbed. We study and we research the weather, but it's just sort of a play on the next event. What's the next graphic that I have? What is the next topic that I should talk about? And every day is so different from the next. It's one of those jobs for anyone with ADD like me. It's perfect because you're on to the next thing, and it's just so exciting too. I also like to encourage with the kids that you are the source that people are going to for very valuable information. And that could be for storms, it could be for a plain rain event, or it could be for how much sunshine we're going to get. But everyone is tuning into a 30 or 60-minute newscast for you. And they may not care about sports or news or anything politics related, but everybody loves the weather. And so they're all turning to you for very valuable information on how it will impact your day or your week.
I mean, storytelling was really sort of my first love. I was originally just a journalist. And then once I started doing weather, I went back and actually got a meteorology degree. And so I like that sort of meld between the two. There are unique aspects of Michigan weather. I mean, the lakes play a huge role in the weather around here. But I think the 4 distinct seasons are one of the things that really drew me to this area. I wouldn't want to be a meteorologist out in the desert or in California or Florida. I like the changing weather around here, and I think a lot of folks who live here appreciate that as well. It's always important to know what to do when severe and violent weather strikes, especially if you have kids, especially if you have to care for folks who may be older or younger. It doesn't take a lot of time. Just think ahead a few minutes. Where am I going to be today? If something happens when I'm away from home, what am I going to do? And that's what you need to sort of be prepared.
Well, I do what I do because I love the weather. I love studying the weather and understanding it. And then my job really allows me to go out and talk to different groups, whether it's boaters, pilots, the media, local governments, and schools, and just talk about ways that people can be safe and prepare and deal with the hazardous weather that we have here in Southeast Michigan. You know, we're really gearing this towards sort of that upper elementary, middle school age group. And so we have our teaching tornado here. It just shows the basic elements that we need for our tornado to form. We need moisture in the atmosphere to get the thunderstorm going. We need spin in the atmosphere, so we have some wind blowing around these tubes to create that spin in the atmosphere. Then we need that thunderstorm to draw everything up and get the thunderstorm going to produce the tornado. And so we have our exhaust fan that acts as our thunderstorm updraft. And so those are our three basic elements that we need for a thunderstorm to form and for that tornado to form, and that's what we're demonstrating. When we have a thunderstorm, that lightning, of course, travels at the speed of light. The thunder travels at the speed of sound, and there's a difference between those two. So if you are seeing lightning, every 5 seconds is 1 mile. Now, the sound wave from the thunder is only going to travel about 5 or 6 miles from your location. So if you ever count up to 30 or 35, you're probably going to be done. You're not going to hear the thunder. The lightning bolt is more than 6-7 miles away from you. But yeah, you can count every 5 seconds is 1 mile from where the lightning struck. Certainly here in Metro Detroit, we have all that concrete and asphalt, and with increasing heavy rain events, there's not the surfaces that can absorb it and soak it in, and so it runs off into our rivers, lakes, streams, into our highways, and we end up with floods. And that's just something that we have seen that actually can be tied directly to climate change and global warming, is the increasing amount of heavy rainfall events that lead to floods, even here in Metro Detroit.
WeatherFest is a wonderful opportunity to come together in strength to help our children feel safe while having fun. It's also a great way to engage kids in weather science through hands-on experiential learning.
Flooding risk. And so there are times when, unfortunately, we might build our homes in the floodplain and we end up with a
This spring commemorated the 50th anniversary of the 1967 Detroit riots. Library staff members created an oral history of the event by interviewing and recording local citizens willing to share their memories.
At that time, and I didn't know at that time what the connection between the police, the city, the neighborhoods, I didn't understand all of that. But I do remember that it was a time when the police were feared.
In 1967, over a 5-day period, the Detroit Police and Fire Departments, along with the Michigan State Police, the Michigan National Guard, and even the U.S. Army, were called to combat what historians describe as the largest civil disturbance of 20th century America.
As far as I'm concerned, again, I kind of speak from being a military non-commissioned officer. At one point in time, I was trained. We were trained in riot control, crowd control, etc. And this was not just a disturbance. It wasn't just a protest. I mean, people were rioting. People were being shot. People were being beat up. They were throwing things. This was not just a peaceful kind of a protest, even a vocal protest. There was force involved. And to me, that turned it into a riot.
Compilations of the oral histories will be shown at the library in July for patrons to see. Various speakers will also be on hand over the summer to discuss the 1967 riot. You could borrow a copy of the oral history DVD from the library's collection, or just take a few moments to watch parts of it in the auditorium in July. You know, it's not every day that you see a lemur from Madagascar or a kangaroo from Australia hopping around Southeast Michigan. But the other day at the Southfield Library, that's exactly what we saw. The Exotic Zoo Company transforms any school assembly or event into a zoo for the day. As an added benefit, there are no buses, no traveling, no lost children or tired feet. The Exotic Zoo does all the work and brings the zoo to you. Javon Stacks is the owner and trainer of Wildlife Exotic Zoo.
I always had a passion when I was a kid, love animals, going in the backyard, grabbing frogs and bring them in the home. So as I grew up, I said, I want to do something I love. I love animals, and I did brainstorming. The zoo came in mind and started the zoo from there. I love animals since I was a kid in Detroit, but Detroit don't allow you to have exotic animals, so I had to move away from the city. We're now in Belleville, so our zoo is based in Belleville, but we travel. We're a mobile traveling zoo. We bring it directly to you. We had the Flemish giant rabbit, largest breed of rabbit in the world. We also have the lemur. We had the ring-tailed lemur, Mr. Jenkins. He's an endangered species, so he's very, very important to the zoo. The tortoise, the Siberian lynx, that's the largest species of lynx in the world, the one with the tufts on his ears. The Savannah monitor, the reticulated python, the longest species of snake in the world. The honey bear. We also had the Quadrumundi, the one that had the long face, looked like an anteater. But it's really cool and unique. Mammals, reptiles, and birds, they get a chance to see a variety of it. Being licensed by the state and federally, what that really means is we have the proper enclosures as far as housing for them. So our zoo is based on the standards of the USDA, so we have to keep them to their guidelines. And the animals we basically mimic their natural environment. How their natural environment looks, we mimic that. The reason why I like to do it, I think back when I was a kid. When I see the kids smile, when I hear all their screams and oohs and ahs, I think exactly when I were a kid, and that keeps me going, it gives me fuel. And then the animals, they're like family. I don't have any children, but they're like kids to me. And that gives me the fuel, just loving what I do and seeing the smiles and actually educating people that it helps save the lives of the animals.
I'm so glad you found us here at More Than Books. Now, why don't you come on down and visit us here at the Southfield Public Library? We're a world-class library with a fantastic building, amazing collections, and terrific people. And we're all ready, willing, and able to serve your information needs. I trust your visit here will be both fun and productive. If you have an idea, question, or comment about our library, please see a staff member for a comment form, or you can email me at dewick@southfieldlibrary.org. And thank you for watching More Than Books.